Good afternoon, everyone, from a snowy and rather sunny now. The sun finally decided to come out today at Dunrovin Ranch here in Lolo, Montana. You may not recognize me with my new haircut. Brandon and I were just talking about it. I fell asleep in the chair and woke up to this. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but it is what it is. So if you didn't recognize me, it's me, Suzanne, and with me is my very good friend, Brandon. Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Suzanne. I'm not going to get a haircut like that anytime soon. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's great. I know you have a new video for us, and I think it's about cattle feeding, is it not?
Yeah, basically just the morning chores. Just nothing real big. Just kind of going through them fairly fast. Try to compress about an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of work into 20-some minutes, I guess.
Well, this is going to be really interesting to our audience because many of them tune in specifically to watch us do those chores every morning and then every evening. So they're kind of accustomed to the way we do things with our horses. And I'm sure that there are some big differences between what you do and what we do. You know, based on the kind of operation you have, the animals that you're feeding. So it will be really fun to contrast the two.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. James, you want to hit the video?
Good morning from the Hash Knife. Well, this morning I'm just going to take you on a routine feeding excursion. Do this every day. Sometimes we have to change what we do based on the needs of the animals. So I'll kind of walk you through that as we do it. As you can see, we got a little bit of ice on the windshield, not frost, that's ice. A little bit of a rain through the night, and it's right at 33 degrees. The ground is froze, and the ambient temperature's above freezing, but that means when the rain comes down, it hits the ground, it freezes, and you all know that, how that works. So we're gonna let that pickup warm up, and Harley is our youngest son's dog. She has got to come with us everywhere. She loves this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take a look at our little stallion here. And I've got free food for him. He gets all he wants. Oh, and he's stretching out. And I brought a buddy in. Actually, that's not necessarily a buddy. More like a mate. And she should have a colt in her. But I'm going to take her and move her down, move some horses around so I can start doing some work on these guys that you'll see later. But he's a friendly boy. He comes up, wants to talk every morning. How you doing, buddy? How are you, kid? Yeah. So I come over, check water, which is so important. As you know, go without it for a few days and see what happens. So I push the paddle down, make sure he got it. And she's going to check it out too. And then they can push that down with their nose and get it on demand. The nice thing about these waterers like this is that in the winter time, they act just like a hydrant. They will drain all the way back. You can see that, and you hear it. And that water goes down and below the frost line, so it stays open. All right, this hay looks good. You can get to it, plenty of it. And then I walk down, and I got to check a couple of troughs for these cows. So I've got everything set up so that they're in two different spots. Right, and bulls make a mess. You can see that they hang around this feed, and in this feed tub, and I'm going to go ahead and put a couple more bales in there for them because I don't want them to run out, but it's not as palatable for them. You can see they stand here and eat it until it's not palatable, or until the grass kind of starts to clear a little bit out in the pastures. Then they like to go and forage on their own. So, as a vet put it, you can see from this ring of manure around here, they are recreational defecators. And they are. They'll stand there and eat in one end and poop out the other. Makes a real mess, of which I get to clean up. You know, that pickup's probably warmed up enough after I've gone around and looked at everything, checked the horse's condition, feed, water. So now we'll run out here and grab a bale or two and feed to the cows. Pick those up. And I can kind of use those as a guide so I can get pretty close to being even on this bale on either side of it. Using my arms as a guide. Here. So it works. Sometimes you don't get lined up quite right on it. Just there you go. Just bumped into it. Easy touch. Drop it about down to the center. Squeeze that bale and then lift it on. This is the view I get every morning for lifting and putting bales in place. And we'll go to the rear view mirror. Use my rear view mirror now. Pull that down. Right in place, right in front of my pusher. Take that off. We are ready to go. Here you can see where I fed out yesterday. And I'm evaluating what I got here. I'll drive to the side of this. And they have pretty well cleaned this up. And even though it was cold yesterday morning, it was going to really warm up. And they've got, that's almost perfect. I mean, I would almost like to see them have cleaned up a little bit more, but it's not worth dumping out an entire, 1,300 pound bale for them to get another couple of pounds a piece that they could go through this and pick a little bit. You see there's some clumps here and there they've left, and some of the probably a little less palatable, but a lot of it's not that stemmy. They don't want to necessarily eat the super stem stuff. It's just like us eating something that's really coarse or really fine, what tastes better to us, what we like. And this is alfalfa hay. We'll talk about another time and why we're feeding that this year. But you can see this is pretty well picked over, really picked over. But again, some clumps here and there that they've ignored and left. And all in all, that's almost perfect. I don't want to leave too much, but then I can adjust what I need to. If they really clean that up and they're standing on it and hungry, then I'm going to give them more. And I will do that occasionally anyway. I'll throw some more hay out there for them. Okay. All right, ladies. You're going to have to give me a little bit of leeway. And just like we've shown in another video past, use that mirror here. And I'm just using that remote control here. Let that battery do the work. Take off of there. And we'll get into that in a bit. So I need to start my pump again for my hydraulic arms and then push those arms out so that it kind of releases the bale so it doesn't sit and not let it slide. Just hold it. I would be helpless to do anything. So put those arms down, shut my pump off. Now I go out with my remote control for my winch. And I have been using just a utility knife. Works really, really well. I keep changing blades in it so it stays sharp. And look at all the needy ones coming around. Got, oh yes, look at you. That bail come on a little bit crooked. I'm too concerned about that because it'll feed off just fine. Now I'm gonna pick up my pulley there, get it set in place, and then really easily. Did I mention that these guys are also recreational urinators too? Yes. So I'll just hit my strings a little bit. Sometimes these strings, you'll lose some on them. Trucking, loading, unloading, stacking. So you just kind of find what you got, remove those. I think I got, oh, I see one of them still up there. So I did have the fifth one there. Yeah, end of it's ragged. So it was one that had been broken before. Now I'm just going to pull these guys off. And then I'll wrap that up. And take a look at it. Let's see, they start to pull that off themselves. Greedy, greedy girls. I'm going to set my winch up, make sure it's going to pull, drag that. You know, pick my string up, be on our way. Okay, so now we're going to make some efficiency with our time, or try to. See if this tractor will start, because I'm going to need it to feed the bulls. So let's let it warm and run and get it so it's operational. You really do want to run this equipment when it's cold. Well, anytime you want to warm it up. You don't want to just let it sit there for an hour or 2 hours and be inefficient, but warming them up, getting them going makes a big difference on their reliability and usability and not breaking down. So we got the door open really nicely. Sometimes it'll stick if we get some moisture and it is frozen. It's a bad design and it will actually freeze that door closed, so you got to be careful there. All right, so I'm going to turn my key on, let the glow plugs warm up the engine cylinders, and it should tell me when it's ready. Preheat completed. Cross your fingers. Ooh, that started right up. Nice. Part of the reason why that starts right up is that we've got it plugged in. It's like I mentioned earlier on that other pickup. It is 33 degrees, so it's not horrible, but you'd be surprised how little it takes to keep a diesel from wanting to start. All right. So, but I don't forget, come back here. You see I've got this plugged in. Our block heater. Plugged it from that. Throw this out of the way. And get a little place there, holder for it. And now, let it warm up. We'll go grab another bale, feed these cows out, take a look at it. Yeah, I'm bringing a second bale out and working that over pretty fast. One of the things I like to do is monitor these guys, not just for their health, but you can also tell how you're doing with your feeding. And in the mornings, when they're not yet calving, it's the coldest. And I like to give them as much feed as I possibly can early enough when the ground is still frozen. I'm not rutting it up, and it gives these girls a chance to be able to metabolize, even though they're ruminants. You know, food's still important, especially early in the morning. So I like to do that then. And then when it gets warmer, we will have them feeding in the evening, just before dark, late afternoon, early evening, and that tends to change metabolism for calving. We've talked about that before, and probably will again. So we'll feed this off and we'll go back. Now that I got this fed off, this is a time you can get out on foot, and I've done that yesterday, I guess. Really look these cows over, look at their feet, look at their eyes, look at their noses, their ears, anything that's ailing them at all. They're limping. I like to look at their backs, their ribs. They should see a little bit of bone on their hips. That cow right there looks really good. She's got a good body score. You can't really see any ribs, but they're there. If you touched them, you could feel them. And her back is filled out. She's in good shape. There's a couple of them here that are, some of them are a little heavy, and like that cow just over this back of this one here, you see her back a little bit, so she is either a little older cow, or she just hasn't recovered from having a calf. And I know her, I think, number 71, yeah. She's got a little spot on the side of her face. She's had a little sliver she was rubbing on at one point, and give her a little scar. But it's healed up good, but she's just kind of one of those cows that doesn't recover real well. This cow's really nice. She's a little bit too big of a cow. But you got to look them all over, how bright their eyes are. Look at this girl right here. She's pretty and she knows it. And she's deep, thick, blocky cow. She's young, and she's only had one calf. Hopefully she's got another one stuck inside of there. And then we got some of these younger ones as well that I'm gonna have the replacements. It's gonna be a calf that, or well, she's a heifer, will be bred this first time this year. So she's coming too. Look at all these cows are looking pretty good. I'm looking at feet, especially when it's cold like this. It has been cold, and sometimes feet are an issue on a cow. This is a ailment that you always look for, always are fighting. Too wet a ground, sometimes too cold like this, just some genetics, and they all look really good. There's a couple of guys in here that I'm always watching very closely, and you'll see the issue with him like we had with the water belly steer. See how quick they went through this first little bunch. They all ganged up on that. But I'm always looking for water belly or urinary issues, which are rare in cows. But like this guy right here has got a blue ear tag. That's a steer. It's a butcher steer. He's sold. And you're just always watching for that. And so that doesn't happen again. Probably won't, but you never know. It can happen in bulls, older males as well. Females not so much. Talked about that, but everybody's looking really good this morning. Heavy. This alfalfa hay, they're doing okay on it. It's got some high protein in it. Too high a protein, I think. But I'm shooting for 30 pounds of hay per head per day on these guys, and then when it gets really cold, I will feed an entire third bale, extra bale, to get them up there about 36, 37 pounds a piece, just to take care of them a little bit, to help them metabolize a little bit more and get some body heat. So everybody's looking good this morning, and so now it's go time for replacing some bull feed. We're going to feed them 2 bales. I'll pull 2 off of the stack, and then I will only take one at a time over. See if I can do this without causing a wreck, because believe it or not, this is very, very top heavy. Set it down easily, gently. And then drop that down where I can just kind of back out of it and reposition for a single bale. Take that in for the bulls and drop it in there. And these guys are definitely interested. This bale first. Same thing, I'm looking at these guys, see if I notice any limping, any issues with them. Just like you do everybody. Eyes, ears, nose, feet, tail end. It's all relative and it's all important. I'm going to just cut a couple of strings. This will peel right off of there. We'll be in business. Stick a knife blade here. Cut each one of these guys. Yeah, I'm going to skip that one. Cut that one, and this is the only one holding this bale. As soon as I hit it, it's all going to fall. There we go. Now all I got to do is grab these strings, pull them away, and I'll be good. I may, because of the way this fell in through here, I may just leave this bale by itself, let him eat on it for a couple days, and then put the other one in there so we're not having an issue with bales falling out of the top of this and wasting something. It hasn't happened, but it could the way this fell out. So, some more of this. And this is always fun. Bales hang up, strings hang up on these knots on these sections of twine. Make it tough to pull. There we go. Alright. Good enough. Time to put the tractor away. Well, you'd think that would be it, but wait, there's more. We're going to run up here to the south of us and take a look at either our horses are up on the hay we've left out, or they may be out grazing like the bulls were. And well, either way, we need to check on them, look them over, and see what their feed is like. And other minerals good, because I checked it the other day as well, so we won't need to do that. Yeah, we come to our south pasture here, and I see horses headed out to go graze. They've been on this hay. Here we got one old boy, our oldest old man. He's hanging back a little bit. And I got plenty of hay out there for them. They're still picking on that. They'll come get that free choice as much as they want. And then, hey old man, how are you? And then they'll leave and go graze for a while, and then they'll go to water. But everything looks really good. They got a lot of hay here they've been picking at. You can probably see them out there in the distance. So that's our work for the day. For chores, first thing in the morning, getting everybody fed, checking water, making sure everybody licks and feels good. And I'm not going to go check those guys because I know what kind of shape they're in. Actually, I like to check them every day like that when I see them out. Anyhow, thanks for riding along with us.
Well, that was great, Brandon, and I can't help but have 1,000 questions whenever I watch one of your videos.
You're just too curious, that's all.
Oh, yeah, I really just enjoy all this stuff, as you well know. Now, so first of all, I'm going to start from the very beginning of the video. It is the stallion that we saw, the one that you bought from Kate Sousa.
It is, yes.
I thought it might be, and I think we need a name, Brandon. We want to follow that guy. We've followed him since you talked about which one you were going to keep. You brought 2 of them over. Did you end up keeping them both, or what happened there?
We got them both, but the other one is sold. He is going to someplace you're pretty familiar with, Palmer, Alaska.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
Yeah,
that's fabulous because Alaska doesn't have very many walkers at all. I mean,
right.
when I lived there, there were no walkers. I never met one at all. So that's terrific. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, we've had a couple of horses go up into that part of the country just outside of Anchorage.
Yeah, yeah. That's about the only real horse country in Alaska, frankly,
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
Palmer Valley there. That's where people hear about the vegetables that grow in Alaska. And they do,
right.
yeah, they do grow some hay there as well. Anyway, give us a name for this guy.
We call him Bentley, and that's actually something that Kate called him. So we just kept that name and put our ranch name in front of him. So he's Hash Knife Bentley Blue, or Bentley Blues actually. So we just call him Bentley. Yeah, Bentley.
That's a very sophisticated name, you
Well,
know?
he's a sophisticated kind of guy. You know?
Oh, that's terrific. Well, good. We look forward to following Bentley and the offspring. At what age will you start breeding him?
Last summer.
All right.
Yeah, we started breeding him as a 2-year-old,
Uh-huh.
which is no big deal.
Right.
We've seen yearlings will breed. Whenever
Right.
they get the twinkle in their eye, they'll give it a shot. So
Right.
he's got three mares in foal. So we'll be following that on into the spring too.
Oh, we're excited. You're painting some anticipation here for sure.
That's a tease, yeah.
Yeah. So then the other thing I wanted to comment on was the automatic waterers that you have for your horses. And, those were invented after we put in a lot of our equipment here. But what a great deal, because you don't require any energy for those waterers, do you?
No electricity to keep them warm, no electricity to put water into them. Horses, water, and electricity do not mix.
Yes.
And these are a really nice type of invention. Well, I didn't do it at all. These were purchased, but very simple and very effective. The only problem with them is if you've got particularly a young horse, say a weanling that has a lot of time on its hands and it wants to stay busy, it will play with that paddle.
Yeah.
And it will fill that bowl and it'll keep filling and draining until it doesn't drain anymore when it's cold, and it will freeze. So then you have to spank its little behind and tell it not to touch the water and thaw it out and get it to drain, and then you're good to go again. But oh yeah, they are. The bulls use them, cows use them, calves use them, horses use them. I've got them at a height so that they are accessible for any of the animals any time of the year.
And does it take much to train them to use it?
It doesn't. Horses are super smart, and they'll usually come right up to you. And so you can fill that up and then kind of, they'll put their nose down there.
Right.
And then you turn them loose. And it sounds kind of cruel, but you need to just leave them alone so they can't get to another water source.
Yeah.
And go out and check them, and they figure it out very fast.
Yeah,
and
necessity is the mother of curiosity.
Yes. Yes, they understand, hey, this got here. I'm not sure how. And they will mess around with it until they kind of feel a little change in the tension on that paddle. When it trips over, it releases a lot of pressure and the water comes. And it takes a little bit of time, but you can hear it come, and they figure fast how to do that. The other thing you can do with like the calves are a little tougher because I wouldn't call those triple-digit kind of critters, with the IQ. So you need to help them out a little bit, and you can seine them a little bit with some grain, get them used to grain or pellets, like you've seen us give ears or some of the others, and get them up there, and then they get curious about it, and then you push that. They'll put their nose in there, and because they're thirsty, and as they put their nose in, you kind of push the paddle down for them, help them a little bit, or you get a couple of critters that are already trained to do that, and they'll figure it out. They'll watch them, monkey see, monkey do, and then pretty soon you've got everybody. Mostly, there's always a couple of them that are like in the lower 2 digits that aren't real quick about picking things up, but they'll eventually all get it.
Yeah, well, I think when we replace, we're going to go in that direction. I really like the idea of the energy efficiency of it all.
Yeah, it runs the same as you would when you open up a faucet in your house.
Yeah.
And the pressure tank drops down, kicks the pump on. Same thing here. It's the same exact. It runs the same thing right off the same line.
That's great. So there were a couple of things I noticed about the environment, Brandon. And one of the things I have always told people that early morning feeding is delightful because you see the sunrise. And I was seeing your skies. The sunrise and sunset is something that ranchers are just accustomed to because they're out there. And again, the wind was blowing.
The wind always blows.
Yeah, yeah. But isn't it true that you often catch those wonderful sunrises and sunsets?
You do, and what's neat is sometimes that gloaming light. You know what I'm talking about? It's that orange light that's everywhere, and it's like you can touch it, but you can't. And you see some spectacular sights. You really do, just every day.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of the great pleasures of ranch life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. We loved seeing your new newly crafted equipment working so well. Yeah, it seems to be doing well for you, is it?
It's doing fantastic. It's as what I hoped, and my greatest hopes that it would work like, and it has met and exceeded that. So yeah, I'm really happy with it.
Great. The other thing that I was noticing is the ever-present baling twine and what a good steward you are of it. And I'll just bet you that the back of your truck fills with baling twine like the back of our truck does.
You know, I daily, that's one of the last things I do is I wind that stuff up and I put it somewhere.
Yep.
And you can't keep it all. I'd like to find a place that recycles it. You know, it'd be kind of a nice, because, you know, it's a plastic and they got to be able to do something with it. If not, melt it down, do something else with it, because I hate to see that stuff go in a landfill. And not all of it does, because believe me, I keep a spare sack of that stuff around because it comes in handy for a lot of things.
Oh, we have a garbage can full of it, and absolutely. But you don't leave it around. It's bad for animals. You won't break, and I mean, it's deadly on ospreys, and yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, absolutely not. No, I don't want, because we have hawks around there, you know, that grab stuff to make nests, and baling twine is horrible for raptors to get caught in.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's great to have in your saddlebag because you can fix almost anything with it.
That's right. That and some electrical tape.
Yeah, and duct tape. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I noticed that just like the horses, the cattle crowd around the truck they must know the sound of your truck and come running. And it seemed like you spread the hay kind of parallel to where it was. You looked to see how much was left over, and then you made a new strip away from the manure and everything to feed the next day's hay. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did. And what you'll see is one of these upcoming episodes, I've actually got my lovely wife, Lisa. She'll be pulling a harrow with the tractor and spreading that stuff around, tilling up. That's not tilling, but it's just using a harrow to kind of spread that manure around and stimulate the growth of the grass. So it fertilizes, yet at the same time, stimulate some of that grass growth, and hopefully in the spring, if we get some moisture, that'll just help, kind of a recycle. And it's not all in the same spot. It's, I try to systematically cover a patch of ground throughout a year.
I think a harrow is a very underappreciated piece of equipment, frankly. It's simple, but you don't want to be turning your soil, because that really disrupts the soil mechanisms. But what you want to do is aerate it a little bit and break up that surface manure, which is just fertilizer, really.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, you can accomplish a lot in terms of pasture management and with a harrow.
Well, and in this part of the country, the turning dirt shouldn't be done here. It is so sensitive to erosion that I just don't like doing that. And you can see it everywhere. Old wheat fields. I mean, that used to be planted. My great grandpa had some wheat and oats and barley planted in that pasture. And if you look close, you can see where it was plowed. And so, you've lost soil. I don't want to continue to do that if I can help it.
Oh, it takes hundreds of years to create that soil,
Yep.
and the soil fauna is really important. You
Right.
know? Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So the other thing is, people wondered some of the cost of like that huge big tractor. That's got to be a costly piece of equipment.
Yeah, that tractor we bought, I think 3 years ago now, 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I traded in a tractor for it. It's used, and I knew buying it. It has shaky transmission,
Mm-hmm.
but the engine is sound. And so even used, we're looking at a little over $65,000 for
Yeah.
a 20-year-old tractor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I was to buy that today, you're looking twice that, $125,000 to $150,000. And that's just, I'm not going to buy a new tractor for that. And thank God we don't put a lot of hours on them every year. We don't, because we don't turn dirt. It's used for just a utility around there, either cleaning cattle guards, moving hay mostly, but sometimes we do a little bit of gravel work with it, fill in where we need to, dig some holes where we need to, and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the issue, isn't it? When you need it, you really need it. There's no good substitute for it.
No, there's not even a bad substitute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
You got to have it.
Yeah, but you don't use it every day, so you really have to justify its cost and keep it as
Right.
long as you possibly can.
And we have an attachment that's a snow plow on it too, and we have used that. Not last year so much, a couple times, but the year before, certainly I couldn't believe how we needed that plow. Where we got lucky before, and we were able to kind of make do with just a big shovel on the front of it, or big bucket. Well, putting that plow on made all the difference for those cows to be able to get a place to eat and be able to feed.
Yeah. And I also wanted to comment, a lot of people don't drive diesels and don't understand that a diesel has to have warm itself before you can even turn on the ignition. And it's a really important part of maintaining a big engine, a diesel engine particularly. And I wanted to comment on plugging the engines in. People who are not accustomed to really frigid temperatures don't understand the importance of that. I'm going to tell an Alaska story. In Fairbanks, the parking meters had plug-ins, and everybody had an engine heater in Alaska. For every, even if you kept your car in a garage, because if you're going to park at downtown Fairbanks for 2 hours or 3 hours while you're in an office building and it's 50 below, you're really, you got a problem when you come back out.
And that's a gas engine.
Yeah, and that's a gas engine, not the diesel engine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very important part of dealing with winter. Yeah.
In that country up there on the North Slope, sometimes they would have a piece of equipment used for some of the oil exploration, and it would be forced to run continually. They never shut it off until it needed an overhaul.
Yeah.
So it ran 24/7 for as long as it went.
I'm well aware of that. And what's interesting is there were times in Alaska when I left my engine running out, and I remembered when they invented remote starters and remote. Oh yeah. That really made life in Alaska a lot easier. Also, when you could open your car with a remote, open and lock it. Because, sometimes you couldn't unlock your car. It would get so cold that the metal, it was difficult.
Yes.
Cold weather is another deal altogether. And then I wanted to talk about the box cutters, and I had to laugh. Your mother on Facebook the other day showed a picture of a pocket knife and talked about how do people recognize pocket knives, and you always go to a guy who has a pocket knife. And I said, well, women carry pocket knives too.
Yeah.
And I have lost so many pocket knives to Checkpoint Charlie's at the airport because I forget I have it in my pocket. Yes, exactly. And they take them from me. I've lost them all over the place. They take them from you. And your wife chimed in at that point and said, I know there are a bunch out in the field that I have lost. Somebody needs to go look for them.
Yeah, that's true. I've done the same thing. I've lost them at, the Nazis that think I'm going to terrorize an entire coliseum of people with a pocket knife.
Right.
Not that I couldn't do it, but, they take me out well before I got to the last person. Yeah, I get mad and I'll stand on the blade and I said, if I can't have it, you can't have it. And I'll snap the blade and throw it in their stupid garbage. So,
yeah, I know.
The last little act of defiance.
Yeah, but I've emptied my pockets in places, and out comes my knife and my box cutter, and people look at me like, what? Yeah.
Yes.
At any rate, I just love all this daily work, Brandon, and I so appreciate you taking us along and keeping us engaged with you in your wonderful place and your wonderful family. And just thanks for visiting us and
well,
share.
Thank you so much. No, it's great to share this and be able to laugh a little bit. Sometimes I go for days at a time and don't see anybody, which is good for them. It's it's if it wasn't for texting, sometimes Lisa and I wouldn't see each other much because I spend most of my time at the ranch now, and she's down at Shepherd teaching kids, so trying to mold their little minds.
Let's explain that situation to people. Brandon has two places until his father passed about 6 years ago.
Would you believe it was in 04, 8 years ago is coming up now, or 14. It was in 14. Sorry. 14.
Yeah. He was a wonderful man, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, he was. He often did the auctions at a lot of the Tennessee Walking Horse events, and he was a gregarious, friendly. People who loved Tex. At any rate, Brandon has helped his father on his ranch for many, many years, of course, but he also has his own piece of property where he has raised and trained horses, which is how far apart are the two pieces of property, Brandon?
Oh, they're right at 80 miles, 75, 80 miles apart. And, I took over management of the ranch in basically 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And Mom and Dad said, hey, we're tired. We can't do this anymore. And I understand,
Yeah.
And so they offered it to each one of us. I got a brother and a sister 2 years younger and a brother 15 years younger. And neither one of them could come up with the capital or, time in the life or interest was not there. So we had been already doing this kind of with my folks. And so trying to figure out how to keep a place together, yet be able to afford it. So we decided, this is crazy to do this generation after generation, sell it to each generation. So let's form an LLC where we can keep it really in perpetuity if we can through members. And so we combined all of our assets with my folks' assets, matched them, and made a deal where, they could stay there as long as they wished, and we would manage it. And then when they died, then we would completely take it over, and our boys would then take their shares as they passed.
Yeah.
And same with me. Then when I die, then mine will be on hopefully to some grandkids or spouses of my boys. So we've got that set up that way. And so I have, since I retired from the other life I had there, trying to maintain that outside job to keep a ranch together. I retired from that 2 years ago. And so now when my mother's there, she's remarried and mostly lives away, about 140 miles away, 120 miles away. So I'm there most of the time. And when she shows up, then I leave. And then I'll drive back and forth. So that's kind of the predicament we're in.
It is. And, there for a while, it was a triangle because your oil job with Exxon was in Billings. And then
Yes.
your family home is in Shepherd, which is what, 40 miles, 50 miles north of Billings?
Actually, no, we're right at about 20 miles north of where that work was. So not too bad. That part wasn't bad. Yeah.
And then you have the ranch over there, and your meanwhile, Lisa, your wife, is still working in the school district in Shepherd. Is that not correct?
Yes, she is a high school science, physics, chemistry, science teacher, one of them, and she's brilliant. She is so smart. It's scary. I'm just glad she's got low standards and myopia, just didn't see too well. Otherwise, I wouldn't stand a chance.
She's a sweetheart, is what
She is. She's a doll.
Yeah. Well, people are saying you're the highlight of their day. So thank you. Like that. Yeah.
I'm sorry their day has a very low bar.
Yeah. That's
Shoot.
all right.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Well, I look forward to doing this again next week. And hopefully we can bring you something that's a little bit different and we can have some fun with it.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Say hello
Bye, you guys.
to that lovely Lisa and your mother.
I will do that. Bye-bye.
Bye.